Hey guys, Nate Perkins here. Thanks so much for tuning in to MDG Media. We're here in the far north of Sweden for EUROTOUR stop number 5, the Skelleftea Open. If you guys didn't tune in last week, we are doing a huge giveaway. We're giving away a Clash disc golf backpack full of Clash discs, including the 2023 Tour Series lineup. You have 2 days left to enter this giveaway. To enter, all you have to do is 3 simple things. Subscribe to this channel, MDG Media, on YouTube, as well as Clash Discs and Perks of Disc Golf on YouTube. We're going to announce the winner of this giveaway after the final round of the Skelleftea Open. Hope you guys enjoy the coverage from here in Sweden.
Many fans here in this shit.
All right, everyone, welcome back to yet another MDG Media production. This is EUROTOUR stop number 5, the Skelleftea Open. We are at Disc Golf Terminalen course, one of the more revered courses in Sweden. I'm your host, Nate Perkins, and I'm here with Elias Luukkonen. Elias, is this not one of the harder courses that we've played all year?
Definitely. I would almost say it's probably tied for the most difficult course we have played internationally this year in Europe. As we take a look at the players, Jakub Semerád having a good, solid season out here in Europe. Next up, Paul McBeth, obviously coming straight from the Swedish Open win last weekend, having a tight battle with Niklas Anttila, looking to add another win here in the Skelleftea Open.
And Jesse Nieminen, the Finnish forehand guru. Stoked to watch him play today.
Yeah, Jesse hasn't really played that much on the EuroTour so far. Played more on the Euro Pro Tour. Obviously trying to make his name out here as well. And Väinö Mäkelä, I believe his first event in Europe this year, so been mostly to the US, had a very solid season also there. So hopefully trying to bring some of those skills acquired from there to the Swedish soil here.
Yeah, they really took this course and ran with it this year. They made a lot of changes. They saw that Paul McBeth was coming. They saw that some other pros from the United States were making their way up to Skelleftea, and they made this course hard. Guys, wait until you see some of these positions. Hole 1, par 4, 219 meters. You need to throw about 110 meter hyzer off the tee to get yourself in position to attack. And it is another kind of specific hyzer, and there is OB just on the right side of that road, so you really have to kind of test that out of bounds and then hyzer just before it to park this hole.
Okay, first up on the last card of the day, from the Czech Republic, sponsored by Latitude 64, Jakub Semerád.
Jakub has been known to prefer that slight anhyzer release with an overstable disc. So on this hole, it's interesting to see whether he chooses to go right side of that dead tree or left side. Looks like he's going right. This is the hyzer line. People can also choose left side with more of a straight shot that fades. But that's a great shot. Perfectly in position, not very far. But there's a good angle to the green from there.
Sponsored by Discraft 6-time world champion Paul McBeth.
Paul also starting things off with the baby hyzer. Just kind of getting himself into position. That's a pretty conservative shot off the tee.
Up next from Finland, sponsored by Dynamic Discs, Nieminen.
One thing to look for during this round is the skips, because these fairways are very thick grass, although it's not very high, it's cut pretty short. Grass is still very thick, and often we only see pretty small, consistent skips. Yes, going for the inside route might have been an early release, judging by the angle. That looked like the angle was more meant for the outside gap, so maybe a little nervous at the beginning.
Up next from Finland, sponsored by Prodigy, Väinö, Mäkelä.
And Väinö is actually fresh off a month-long break from the game.
Going for that straighter route, but that's the common miss we see when somebody's going for the straighter route. It's difficult to hang it out enough far right without challenging that first tree on the right. And as we saw from both Jesse and Väinö, ending up to the left side of the fairway quite short, still having to deal with some gaps. Although Väinö looks to have a really good gap, he's going aggressive through it with a driver, trying to flip it up, and that's a great shot. Within putting distance, that's a crazy shot from there. He had about 120 meters to go.
I think we're going to be seeing a lot of this Athena today, and Paul just cruising that one into the circle. What a pretty little shot right there. Just drifted slightly from flat back onto hyzer. This angle sets up great for Jakub. It's hyzering a little too early. How about Väinö's shot, though, from inside the birch wall?
Yeah, that was a crazy shot. Even able to get all that distance with that pure hyzer angle, really speaking volumes of how much speed and spin Väinö gets on the disc. Jesse there, from the left side, not having an angle to the green, just has to pitch up 40-50 meters short of the fairway. And look at this gallery. There was, even though we're very far up north of Sweden, there was still some people coming out, even on this Friday, to watch some high-level disc golf.
Yeah, guys, go ahead and check out on the map just how far north Skelleftea is. We're not too far from the Arctic Circle. The sun really doesn't go down here. It's still bright outside at 2 a.m.
Yes, and Jakub gonna settle for the pars, and Väinö, great confidence stroke on the first hole. You can see that signature powerful spin putt from the left hip. Very traditional European putting style. Compared to Paul's putt, if you look, he's coming from lower, having that lower, more of a lofty finish to the follow through. 2 great birdies there on this starting hole, which is not an extremely difficult hole compared to the standards of this course, but it's by no means an easy birdie.
All right, hole 2, they backed it up for this year's event. We've got a double Mando that's maybe 4 meters across. There's OB left on that road if you get a nasty kick. Once you navigate through the Mando, got about 70 meters left to this pin. A straight shot will get you circle's edge right. You want it to hyzer just a bit at the end of its flight if you want to park it.
It's a very awkward gap to hit. I feel like the hole really sets up for a hyzer shot, but the gap really sets up for a flat shot. We can see Paul going just in between, slight hyzer, as you said, ending up at the edge of the circle. I feel like that's a pretty common result on this hole.
Yeah, it is a common result. And like you said, Elias, just no skips out here, really. It's honestly one of the better parts about this course is the lush green grass through the forest here.
Väinö hits early. Might be challenging that left side OB and also that left side Mando, but appears as if he has found none of them. Might have a very difficult second shot, since he's not gonna go to the drop zone, and Jakub just barely makes it through the Mando. Or actually doesn't. I think he went through the wrong side of the Mando. That's a bad break there.
All right, Jesse showing off that forehand, little turnover to 12 meters, and is that not out of bounds? So it looks like he was safe right there for hole 2. That's out of bounds for hole 1, but not for the second hole. Interesting. Well, he's navigated through the Mando now.
Another thing to note about the course is, as you see these puddles on the ground, it was raining pretty heavily earlier in the week, so the ground is very soft, even making that effect of no skips even stronger. As Jesse makes a great putt from outside the edge of the circle. Surprising not to see him go with a jump straddle putt, as he usually does that from outside the circle, but I believe that might be because the ground on this green is very soft from the rain. Let's see if Paul can match that.
Yeah, I've just held onto that putter a fraction too long. Väinö for bogey. Man, good on him for knowing the rules. I would almost just assume that those red stakes were out of bounds.
Yeah, me too, but good to see the card being aware of the rules. I must imagine they might have even asked possibly a volunteer or even the TD that might have been following the group. Jakub there, also with the bogey. Paul with just a par tap in. Pretty common spread on this hole. It's very easy to get that bogey if you hit the early trees. And no easy gap to hit. I think it's one of the more difficult gaps to hit on the entire course.
All right, hole 3, one of the harder holes on the entire course. It's a par 4, 231 meters. Most players are flying through this right gap. You want to throw at least 100 meters off this tee here. There's a little choke point right in front of this tee pad. The OB kind of pinches in around this road. You can see those red stakes right there, and then it kind of opens up. OB continues up the right side of this fairway, and it kind of cuts off on the left side. We're flying over the old pin position right now, and then they backed it up another 30 meters, cut a tunnel through these trees. Such a difficult one to birdie.
Yeah, it is the most difficult hole on the course. Actually playing over a full stroke above par. So playing with more than a 5-stroke average. One of the more difficult par 4s I have ever seen on tour. Väinö choosing this right gap, which is ideal for distance. He turns it a little bit over and he's pinched on the right side. I believe he will have to throw some sort of Anheuser release from there.
And the Kuba turning something up this fairway. He'll be right behind that tee pad. Pretty good spot. Both semi-conservative shots right there.
That's a good position for Jesse there. Just getting to the mouth of the gap. Still has a chance to get up and down from there. And Väinö here, very difficult shot. Has to keep this low and slightly turning. Perfect angle. If that was just a couple of meters higher, I believe he would have been chasing the green. But still a good result there. Jakub looking to do the same. Going for those right side woods, which are pretty thick if you don't punch through at all. I'm a little bit worried if he didn't go through them, that he might have a very difficult approach to the green.
McBeth opting to go big forehand here. Straighter force. Up and into the edge of circle 2. What a shot. ESA here, similar angle. Oh my gosh, what? And what a way to card a par here on the third from before the pinch point. Elias, what did you think about that one?
That's crazy, really showing off why Jesse is considered one of, if not the best forehand throwers in Finland. That shot even suits a backhand, I believe, much better than a forehand, but somehow he made the forehand work just perfectly. And Paul here, for the birdie, almost makes it. That would have been a great birdie. There was only 3 birdies throughout the first round on this hole 3.
Yeah, 120 tries and just 3 birdies. Shows you just how difficult this new pin position is.
And it's also in the shadows, which on the putting green really opens you up for mosquito attacks. There's a lot of mosquitoes on this course as we are so far up north. Another thing to keep in mind, players are fighting with them for the entire round, I can tell you.
All right, another daunting par 4 here. You can either opt to lay up short on top of this hill, or you can try and pump one across this OB pond right here. There's also OB in the right wood line short of this pond. Once you navigate that, you are left with 2 potential gaps into this green. You can see just how tight they both are. Most players are going with this left gap. And then we have this beautiful circle here with this fresh mulch. Another just super demanding par 4. Probably also playing maybe a half stroke over par. Where are we at?
That's a great guess. It's actually playing 0.49 strokes above par. So pretty much perfectly a half stroke above. Jesse looks to be he's trying to go over the pond with a forehand, which is a huge forehand carry. Looks like he might have just gotten over, although he's on the right side, and that's a very aggressive, surprisingly aggressive shot.
It's turning a little quick, catches some of the birch. Okay, and just barely scoots across there. Man, this is such a demanding shot. I actually didn't see anybody go for it.
Yeah, Definitely a majority of the field is trying to go shorts here, like Väinö is. Difficult thing about this layup is that it easily goes long. Väinö keeps it short enough though, and that's a good position, although from there it's still about 150 meters to the basket. Jakub going aggressive, turning it a little bit over more than he would like. But that's a great position, just on the right edge of the fairway. Should have a look towards that left side forehand gap to the green from there.
And from here you have this one pocket of birch trees in the center, and Väinö finds it, and what a terrible reaction into the birch forest on the right. And the skinnier those trees get, the harder it gets to get out of them because there's so many and the gaps are tiny.
Yeah, I think adding on to the fairness of this course, you know, the fairway is very wide, but if you go into the woods, there's a lot of these small trees, and Jesse not really choosing a gap out of those two gaps at the end, rather going through the woods, and he actually has a putt for the birdie. Going forehand on this hole and having a birdie look is impressive.
Wow, Paul just peers it. He's on the mulch into... That's the best I've seen so far this weekend.
Yeah, good drive, even a better approach. Jakub also going for that forehand gap, leaves it early. As we said, it is a very tight gap. You have to kind of push it straight for long, and then only at the end fade strongly to the right. Väinö going with a great looking scramble shot, getting himself into circle through from the middle of the woods.
Wow, that was high level right there. He was in jail. He knew. Out of his hand. Drops it left side of the pole. He's 2 under through 4. What a birdie from out of position.
2 forehands and a birdie. That is a crazy, crazy result, as Väinö just misses his par putt there. And Paul with the easy birdie. I don't think many people are going to be that close for the birdie throughout the whole weekend.
All right, hole 5. This was formerly a straight 100-meter shot. They've now moved the pin about 15 meters left and into this wood line. And then they wrap some OB so close to this bucket. I mean, it's maybe 3 or 4 meters deep left and short. You can see those red stakes right there. Even closer on the backside. There's kind of 2 gaps. Most players are throwing this straight gap. Jesse's going to take this forehand out over the OB on the left side.
With the forehand, you really can't park it unless you go through the last trees. And you can see Jesse, he's fading out towards the right side. Still has a look, but it's a scary one, since, as you said, the OB is only 4 meters behind the basket from that angle. I believe Paul is trying to hang it out wide and hopefully land just a little bit right of the basket. Take that skip. Now that's also a little bit more right than he would be comfortable with, I believe.
I think Jakub's actually throwing justice here. And he's scooting that thing into the circle. Little death putt.
Väinö here with mid-range as well. This looks like the best line out of the 4. Just needs to sit down, and it does. Perfect shot there. And even that shot is probably no more than 2 meters from going OB. Paul with a great looking release, but hits one of those branches. I believe that had a really good chance of going in if it didn't hit the branch. Let's see if Jesse is aggressive. No. Just a layup. Good play there. Being 2 under after 5 is a great score.
Good putt.
Yep, great looking death putt right there from the Cube. Gets himself back to par before heading across the road. These first 5 are on the opposite side of the road from the clubhouse.
Yeah, and this hole 5 is finally one of the easier holes, actually averaging under par, unlike the first 4. So, what do you think, Nate? Is the front 9 or the back 9 more difficult on this course?
It's a good question. I think the front 9 has to be just a little bit more difficult. Here we are, hole 6, 135 meters. You're teeing off slightly uphill as well, and you have this one dead tree right in the middle that kind of forces players to throw the turning driver on the left side. There's also OB on the right side, marked by that road. This is just a very specific shape here. You can't turn this too much or you're at risk of finding that OB. If you don't turn it enough, you're going to hit the straight wall of trees in front of you.
This is a very difficult hole to get inside the circle, or even circle 2. See a lot of pars here, actually 74% of the field taking par on this hole. As we see Jakub kind of not really wanting to turn it over too much, heads into the left side woods, and that's a common result. People are mostly more scared to turn the disc over to the right than fading out left. Obviously, because the right side has OB, left side is pretty open. If you go in there, you're still gonna have a look for the par almost every time.
This is beautiful. Skating right by the cameraman. That's inside the circle. That's the ideal shape right there. Turning, just cruising back to flat, but not really hyzering out.
Yeah, beautiful shot from Väinö there. Yes, this is a massive forehand. If he wants to reach this, he has to absolutely crush the disc. You can see he's fading a little bit early. Even though it is a right turning hole, it really suits up way better for that right hand backhand turnover than the forehand. Paul also with a pretty good line doesn't turn it over as much as he would like, so he's fading to the left side woods. Still possibly in circle 2, or the edge of circle 2 there.
Yeah, I feel like Jesse's play is really just to play this one for par. I don't think he really got on that forehand too hard. McBeth from 16 meters just under the band. What a birdie. All of a sudden, 3 down through 6.
Wow, that was a great putt, and continuing from where he left off in the Swedish Open. I believe a big part of why he was able to win that tournament was because his C2 putting percentage was throughout the weekend over 50%, so making a lot of long putts there. That's what you need to do on this course as well. As we see Väinö with a great birdie there, with that rare inside the circle hit off the tee.
Väinö gets himself back under par. Feel like this next stretch of the course Yeah, so this next stretch of the course I feel like is pretty scoreable. Starting with this 179 meter par 4. Pretty tricky tee shot. Most players are going to throw this hyzer flip that kind of rides this back wall. and just gently finishes out here. There's one small landing zone. Too short, you pinch your angle off, and there is a mandatory right that you have to navigate. You can't cut this corner. And you're left with a pretty short approach to this basket, and there is some hazard just beyond the pin there.
Yeah, challenging tee shot because the ideal tee shot is slightly more left, opening up that angle to the tunnel, but also left side OB comes into play if you fade left. So you really have to pick which risk you want to take, and Väinö chooses to take the risk of being in the right side woods and just doesn't quite fade out of there. He was going with the mid-range, I believe, and Paul with the driver. So see the difference of Paul going way more left, possibly challenging that OB line as he actually goes into the OB.
Or not, maybe just checks up just short of it. Those thick clovers. Jakub, a little too much hyzer as well, needs to slow down. And maybe that's safe as well.
Interesting, I guess maybe they did actually stay safe. Maybe the OB is a bit further left than it looks like from that angle. Yes, piercing the fairway with a perfect looking forehand, actually going even far off the gap. Wow, I have never seen a drive get there.
Okay, so I see now that ditch is actually safe. The stakes are just across it. Paul shapes a buzz around the corner. He's inside the bullseye. He's going to be 4 down through the front 7, the best score we've seen so far this weekend.
Yeah, that's a really hot score, especially with the front 9 being slightly more difficult than the back. Really sets up for some high scoring possibilities. As Jakub is also inside the circle, and look at this angle from Väinö. Has to deal with all of the trees in the inside corner. Looks to have a gap actually, but just barely hits the last tree. That was looking great, and he's still short of the Mando, so has to throw some sort of a lean out and hyzer or forehand hyzer from there.
And he peers it. Is it going to roll? It's rolling into the circle. Chill. What a roller. He'll have a putt for birdie from just outside the tassels.
That's a crazy play. I would have never imagined that somebody went forehand roller on this hole and actually had a chance for the birdie.
There we go. Straddle jumper is on today. Another crafty birdie.
Yep, that was the craftiest birdies so far this round. And Jakub with a very, very uncommon miss for him. He's the putting world champion from a couple of years back. 3 putts on the screen. Huge surprise, although he does have that spin putt, quick spin putt motion, which might sometimes, if the confidence is not quite there, might cause for some grip locks or inconsistent releases.
Yeah, you rarely see Jakub pull it like that. It's honestly impressive how much he just keeps that spin putt on the pole. We'll see how that affects him for the rest of this round. Another demanding tee shot here. You're teeing off just ever so slightly uphill, and there's a bit of a low ceiling, and there's just one specific gap. Most players are going with the hyzer flip backhand that just kind of rides straight, and you want to be a little bit more on the left side of this fairway, and that opens up your angle into this green. They move this basket up into the birch forest here. How far do you think you need to throw this one off the tee to be into position?
I believe the perfect position only starts from after 115 or 120 from the tee. So many people, Paul as well, probably going for that zone. Although he did pull it right. The angle was looking great, but too far right, and he's gonna have to scramble, possibly with a forehand from there. As Jesse, talking about forehands, going for his signature forehand flip, turns it over too much. Is on the left side. There is some gaps if you're on the left side, but it's not an ideal position to be in. He will have to scramble as well.
Pretty pure from Väinö. You think that's too straight?
I think that's perfect. Being on the right side slightly opens up that wider forehand hyzer, or even possibly a backhand turnover to the green. Jakub going for the left side gap actually. He's the first person I see going for that left side gap, but obviously suiting his signature and hyzer release. Not quite getting the height there though.
No way. Low forehand from Paul. He's going to be in a tough spot to get up and down for the par.
Great looking flex forehand from Jakub. Going straight down the fairway, and he's actually, I believe, on the edge of circle 2 there. Just showing off how difficult this hole is, even with a perfect looking forehand. Still 20 meters away. Yes, playing to the left side of the fairway, trying to just open up the approach angle, and it should be a pretty easy approach from there.
All right, Buzz SS for Paul. He's looking kind of high. Decent angle. What? What? Wow, and he has thrown an incredible shot up into the bullseye's edge.
Yeah, that was insane, and you could see himself having that more open backhand window that Väinö was missing on the last shot, but here he finally has it. Looking to try to do something similar as Paul did, but he turns it over early. Wow, insane shot from Paul.
Yeah, and you can see, you honestly can't see how difficult the shot is. Like Väinö's was similar, but there's just so much in the way right there. Paul really threaded the needle. And this is what would have happened if he went too early. You're just deep in the woods, you're pitching out. What a way to keep the bogey-free round alive.
Yeah, insane shot. And as we see the other players, Jakub actually having a chance for birdie there, having to settle for that par, which is no problem on this hole. Another really difficult hole, playing above a half stroke over par. Yes, solid putt. His putting is absolutely perfect looking right now. I believe hasn't missed a single putt yet.
Paul just taps it in. Cracked a little smile for us. We're going to go 3 pars and a bogey here from Väinö.
You can see how much mulch there is on the green. Probably a couple tons of mulch. Huge respect to the course for looking such well maintained for this tournament, going on to hole 9.
Yeah, 245 meters. This one is really all about this drive. You have to shape this one up to 130 meters out the sequence of gaps into this field right here, and then you're left with about 100-meter straight shot that ends with this little gap right here that is plenty wide. There is a mandatory on the left side that can cause some trouble if you don't get this one flying straight enough.
Yeah, many players trying to release something on hyzer but flip it up to flat, hopefully fly all the way to the field. Paul there had the hyzer release but did not quite have the flip up part, so a little bit short left, making that angle for the green pretty much impossible. Obviously Jesse going with the forehand, gets a good kick off the bush. Still chance for the par there, but this is just a really difficult forehand hole. I'm almost a little bit surprised that Jesse is not throwing a backhand here, as he does have a very solid backhand as well.
And Jakub's going to be testing that Mando. He might just have to pitch something out into the field.
Yeah, I believe he did stay short of it, but definitely not a good angle from there. And Väinö hitting early. Gets a fortunate roll forwards. And still, even from there, it's about almost 200 meters left. Gonna have a shot to save that par if he gets this shot into the middle of the fairway. As he does. Only about 80 meters left from there.
Jesse forced to do the same here, just throwing the hyzer into the field. And that's early. It's a terrible spot to be. He's just going to have to pitch out his third.
Yeah. And Paul here going with a very aggressive forehand and hyzer shot. Possibly trying to give himself a long look. Kicks back to the fairway. And yeah. Backhand from Jesse there we saw on the last shot. Now going back to the forehand. Hitting some branches. But he says that even though his backhand is mechanically quite good, he doesn't have the confidence for that, and that's the main reason he doesn't throw a lot of backhands, even though he knows he can throw them very well. He just doesn't quite have the confidence on course. As Jakub pitches up to the fairway. Still a chance for par there.
Classic finish standstill shot right there from Väinö. And he's going to be up and in for a good par save after hitting early. Jakub looking to do the same. Ooh, flashes the bucket right there. Yes, it has to get up and down here for a single bogey. And he'll have that 5-meter putt left. And Paul's our last hope for a birdie.
Yeah, Paul still weighs out maybe 35 meters. Gives it a good run. And once again, if you looked at how the discs were landing on the ground, pretty consistent small skips here as Jesse makes it for the bogey. You see the grass is thick, yet not very tall, really causing some of those small consistent skips. Not really a lot of random rollaways on this course, which is I love. Fairways are very fair. Not any roots on the greens.
And good to see Jakub getting back online there with that spin putt. Nice scramble from Väinö. Back-to-back holes with no birdies for this feature card. And that's going to wrap up our front nine. You can see just how difficult it is. Paul looks to be in prime form yet again this weekend. His 5th stop in Europe. All right, we're going to take a look at the scores here. Paul McBeth leads the way on the front, 4 down, hottest score. There are a few people at 2, Lari Lehtinen, Samuel Hananen, and Luke Sampson from the United States making his first appearance in Europe. Of course, Jesse shooting at 2 down. You can see, guys, this front 9 is really difficult. And thank you guys so much for joining us here on MDG Media. EUROTOUR stop number 5 is Skelleftea Open. From Elias, Luukkonen, and Nate Perkins, we will see you soon for the back 9 here in Sweden.